Good afternoon, everyone. It's Tuesday. I hope your week's going well so far. Welcome back to the Magnificent Mags channel. Thank you so much for tuning in as always. Now, I'm not the milk tray man, so I don't want anyone asking that, but I do have an ask of you. If you do like what I do, please give all my channels a follow. And I've got my Linktree URL on there, and I'll take you to all my socials for the Magnificent Mag, and please give a follow. It's really appreciated, and what's especially appreciated is I noticed on YouTube that I'm up to 116 subscribers, so thank you so much. I mean, that's more than I ever expected, if I did even think of it, within like 6 to 7 months. And if you do like my content, whether you're new or you've been watching this for a while and you haven't yet subscribed, please do so. It allows the channel to keep growing and bringing you new and exciting content. And when you turn those notifications on, you'll get the latest videos. But let's get underway. The news this morning that Newcastle, yes, we've bid for a player. Now, I know Antonio Cordero, I'd done the video of him last week, but we know he's going out on loan next season for his development. But James Trafford, a player we've been after for a while, linked with forever, and Eddie Howe has coveted from afar for ages. Yes, Pete Graves posted it, and it was on Sky Sports News. We are in talks with Burnley to sign him eventually. And we know he's keen on the move. He's talked about this openly. He's recently been on Ben Foster's podcast. And you know what? He's a very mature head on young shoulders. It doesn't let anything faze him. He said that obviously he wanted to do the move last summer. He hoped it would come off. It didn't. We all know why that was, because of the PSR situation. And it turned out that the only way we could balance our books was selling Anderson, and we had to take Vlachodimos coming this way. So unfortunately we had too many keepers, so we just said, look, we can't do it this summer. But it is looking like it's going to happen this summer. And yeah, like I've said, mature head on young shoulders. He played 45 games last season. He's a big reason why Burnley kept 16 clean sheets out of 46 games. Only bettered by Mourinho's 2004-05 Premier League winning team with Chelsea when they conceded 15 in miserly defence. Trafford kept 29 clean sheets out of 45 games. That's better than 60%. That's unbelievable, that. And look, people are saying he's coming in to compete with Pope. I'm sorry though, but if you're paying £30 million for a goalkeeper, even in today's money, he's not coming in to compete with Pope. He's coming in to be number one. Eddie Howe would not chase him that long to put him in as a number two. So it makes us think, will Nick Pope move on? Well, you know what? Maybe. I'd be sad to see him go, because he is derided a lot for his passing, his kicking. And I know that's obviously the main thing I always say with a keeper is your shot stopping. But yeah, the modern game is the keeper who's a sweeper out from the back as well. And Trafford showed he can do that well. People are saying, oh, he flopped last time in the Premier League when Burnley got relegated. But if you think back then, he was, what, 19 or 20? He's 22 now. So he could be a keeper for the next decade. And he doesn't live far from here. Well, he's not born far from here, sorry. He's a Cumbrian lad. He was born in Cokemouth, and he went to Carlisle United. That's where one Mark Gillespie actually went to in his younger days. And then he went to Manchester City at 12 years old. So yeah, I thought it might have been a bit more tricky getting him when Burnley got promoted. Would they want more money for him? But I think the keeper's keen on the move, and you don't really want to stand in a player's way. But yeah, come back to Nick Pope. He's been fantastic for her. But we will say that he hasn't looked the same since his shoulder injury. And yeah, makes you think, is it one of those where Pope will want to stay in challenge as a number two? But you know what? Pope has been over his shoulder injury recently. He made some big saves when he came back in, like I've said before, against Forest in my previous videos. And he's a big reason in both the seasons we got Champions League football, why we got Champions League football. I still believe Pope's a great shot stopper. And yeah, I know we all mock his kicking, as I've said, but it's just one of those. It's like Trafford will come in to be number one. And Nick Pope's been linked with a move to Leeds. So that's an interesting one. And you know what? If it's for the good of his career, I wouldn't stand in his way. I'd like him to be there to have two quality number ones and a number two. But I think it'll be 4 keepers overall. So it's either going to be a case of Trafford and Dubravka, Ruddy and Gillespie, or it'll be Trafford and Pope, Ruddy and Gillespie. I think Vlachodimos is off. Again, he was just a PSR make weight. He gets a decent Scrabble score, as I've said before. but he's only played 45 minutes and in the cup. So again, he was just a reason to get Anderson out here and balance up PSR books. So yeah, Vlachodimos should be off. But then it comes down to who'll be number 2, Nick Pope or Martin Dubravka. Now, Dubravka and Pope's contracts, both run up until the 30th of June next year. But if you're looking to get any value off a goalkeeper, well, the main one, obviously, Nick Pope. Nick Pope will still command more because obviously he's played regular Premier League games and he's 33 years old. Dubravka's 36, I believe, 37. So yeah, if we want to get any value, even with them both having a year left on the contracts, Nick Pope would be the likely departure. So it'll be sad to see him go, but I'll also understand that if he does, he's not moving too far. He's keen on the move. He spoke about it. Mature keeper, he could be number 1 for the next 10 years. He's clearly going to be England number 1 when Pickford eventually fades or retires. So yeah, and he's a brilliant shot stopper. He was great with pens, as we're seeing against Sunderland with his double save. And also he's the main thing which everyone raves about is he's fantastic with his feet. So don't rate him and judge him on the Premier League season when he was up. That was a terrible Burnley team. He was 19 or 20 with an awful defence in front of him. He's clearly a quality keeper, and I, for one, will be happy if we sign him. Yeah, we'll see what happens. I mean, we know Vlachodimos will be off. I mean, he's got, 42 caps for his country and 41 Champions League appearances, but again, he was never going to play here or have any impact. He was just a PSR make-weight. And Ruddy and Gillespie, although it looks like Ruddy might be extended and Gillespie already has, they're clearly here just for camaraderie and training other goalkeepers and potentially working towards the coaching badge. It's good for the dressing room. So I think we'll have 4 keepers who've been in 4 competitions next season, but the clear number 1 will be Trafford if we do get him. And then it'll either be one of Nick Pope or Martin Dubravka. But anyway, that's it for now on James Trafford. Time to move on to other potential signings. We've been linked with, obviously, one Anthony Elanga of Nottingham Forest. Now, he's one I'd absolutely love to sign. But, as usual, he's not our player. I'm not going to talk up like he is. No disrespect to Forest, because we don't like it when our players are talked about being linked with other clubs, like we've had Arsenal with Isak. And recently, obviously, Tino with Manchester City, Fabrizio Romano's absolute non-story. Done an update with no update, just for the sake of posting. But Elanga, yes, he made 43 appearances last season. Now, his numbers don't look that great for Forest, but it's just what he brings to you. Like, he obviously plays as a winger. He'd be absolutely brilliant on that right-hand side. He's got clear pace, loads of stamina. He can run for England. Great ball carrier. And yeah, he has chipped in with goals and assists. I can't remember how many exactly he got last season for Forest, but he'll be a tough one to prize out of the City ground. But he is a little make-weight that might help, as he is international teammates with Alexander Isak. They're allegedly best mates for the international team. But yeah, we'll wait and see what happens with that one, but it'll take a massive bid. And then the other one has been Jacob Ramsey of Aston Villa. He made 45 appearances last season. Now, people are saying, why replace Willock with Ramsey? But Ramsey's not as injury prone as people are making out. Yeah, like I said, 45 appearances last season, and he was key in Villa getting Champions League. He scored a goal at Anfield when Liverpool needed to win. So he was key for Villa getting Champions League, and I think he is an upgrade on Willock. Look, no disrespect to Willock. Willock, he carries the ball up the pitch. He's had good stamina. He's a good passer, as we've seen in previous seasons. He's got an eye for goal, and he's good off the ball positionally. But he's not intense enough. He's not an intense full throttle player. And while Willock can play on that left side or left of midfield, it's not really what we need at the moment. Jacob Ramsey would slot straight in where Willock would be. And also on the left-hand side, we've got Harvey Barnes and Anthony Gordon. So it just kind of necessitates the need for Joe Willock to move on. Look, I've loved the guy. I'm not disrespecting him. He's been what we needed when we were in the muck under Steve Bruce. He kept up with those 7 goals in 8 games. But as I've said before, the club's outgrown him, so he needs to move on for the sake of his career. Now, Willock has been linked with moves to either Fulham, where you could say, could he work as a make-weight for Rodrigo Muniz, as I covered in the Seaside video on Friday, or Crystal Palace he's been linked with. He came through Arsenal's academy, he could return to London. So that'll be an interesting one. Could that be used to get Gahey out? But we know how that Parish is a hard negotiator. So we'll wait and see. But like Willock, I think he needs to move on for the good of his career, and Sean Longstaff. Now, you might cry, what about the quota for the Champions League, the homegrown contingent? But it's clear that Eddie Howe does not rate, well, I'm not saying he doesn't rate Longstaff, but he clearly doesn't fancy him anymore because he's not playing games. He had chances to play him last season, he didn't bring him on. So it's clear that his time looks like it's up. And he's been linked with Everton and Leeds, so that's one where could he join Pope at Leeds or will he move to Everton? A fresh start for Longstaff. Again, like what he's done for us has been fantastic, he's lived the dream, but when he's not playing, you don't just want to keep a player there just for the sake of the homegrown quota. Now, just to clarify UEFA's homegrown rule, I've looked at this just for the exact definition. So it's a maximum of 25 players for List A. It's capped at 17 foreign players, and 8 players have to be trained by clubs in the same national league. 4 of those have to be from your own youth system. So that means they have to have been at your own club or a club in the same national association for at least 3 years from the age of 15 and before they reach their 21st birthday. So that means you can have a player from 2 clubs and 2 different youth setups. So if we do lose a Sean Longstaff or a Joe Willock or both, and we're brought in the likes of, say, Anthony Elanga, who came through Manchester United's youth system from 12-year-old, or we'll obviously get Jacob Ramsey, who came through Aston Villa's, then we'll be absolutely fine. And it's talked about, as Eddie Howe said, for expediency, target clubs who are in PSR trouble. The main one, the big red flag's Aston Villa. So while I've said we won't sign anyone yet before the window closes tonight and it reopens Monday, I think we will test Villa's resolve, as it's rumoured, for Jacob Ramsey. Now, we could do it even when the window's shut, but then the deal doesn't have to be announced till July 1st when the new PSR cycle kicks in. But what it means is, The Athletic, as I shared, says we can lose up to £83 million in 24-25. But we don't really want to be doing that this close to this cycle ending. So I reckon we'll go fresh from July 1st. But that means that, like I said, we don't have to wait till July 1st. We can announce signings from July 1st. That's when the contract begins. So I reckon we'll be in there and we'll be targeting clubs like Villa and players like Jacob Ramsey. But when it comes to the homegrown rule, look, if we haven't got 4 players, say if we lost a Longstaff or a Willock and we can't meet that homegrown quota, I would either bring players up from the academy or you just go with a smaller squad. It's as simple as that. Now, one last bit of news. Now, Craig Hope and Simon Jones of the Daily Mail have reported that we are targeting Nottingham Forest's Ross Wilson as our new sporting director. The recruitment specialist Nolan Partners are the ones leading the hunt for the new sporting director, and Ross Wilson's 41-year-old. Now, he ticks all of the boxes because one of the main remits they're looking for is someone with Premier League experience, so he does have that. But the club have said they're happy in the interim for Steve Nixon and Andy Howe to lead transfers. But obviously, we do want a new sporting director in, but we're not likely to see any movement on that until Paul Mitchell's departed at the end of this month. So that's an interesting one to keep an eye on. And another name that's been linked is the 40-year-old Jason Ato. He used to be Arsenal's former assistant sporting director. So that's another name that's in the frame. But the club said they aren't going to rush it. They've learned from the mistakes of when Darren Eales rushed to appoint Paul Mitchell, and that hasn't worked out well with him leaving less than a year into the role after Dougie Freedman had turned it down. Please do leave your comments on everything I've discussed. From the James Trafford news, do you think Nick Pope will stay or go? Obviously, Sean Longstaff and Joe Willock as well, and the news on with sporting director. But that's it from me for now. Thank you so much for watching. Take care and have a great week, everyone. Bye for now.